For the past 3 years, Glitch has treated the amazing Digital Circus like a massive event, constantly building hype around every episode with teasers, trailers, countdowns, and non-stop promotion across social media. But now, only days before the biggest and most important episode of the entire series releases in theaters, the studio has suddenly gone almost completely silent. And after the finale leaked online and spoilers started spreading everywhere, a lot of fans began noticing how strangely different everything feels around Digital Circus right now. Almost like the leak changed something behind the scenes. When you think about how a studio normally promotes a finale this big, the pattern is pretty predictable in the best way possible. New clips dropping every couple of days, emotional posts from the creators, countdowns, fans going absolutely wild tagging their friends online. That kind of energy builds on its own until you feel it even if you are not actively looking for it. And that is exactly how Glitch handled every single previous episode of Digital Circus for 3 whole years, so the contrast with what is happening right now is genuinely difficult to ignore. A few days ago, a Brazilian hacker obtained the finale and started spreading the content across social media. From there, it moved fast because spoilers have a way of escaping containment the moment they hit somewhere like Twitter or TikTok, and the algorithms made sure the content reached people who never asked to see it. Fans who had been waiting months to experience this finale started running into details they actively wanted to avoid, and there was basically nothing they could do about it. Now, here's the part that I keep coming back to, because what happened next is what makes this situation genuinely strange. After the leak hit, the natural expectation from a studio that has been as vocal as Glitch is that you get some kind of response, even something minimal like a post asking people to be careful about spoilers or a reminder about why the theatrical experience matters. But Glitch as a studio stayed quiet in a way that felt almost deliberate, and the only public reaction that came in those first hours was from Gooseworks herself, not from the official accounts. And the response Gooseworks gave on Blue Sky was so short and so unexpected that it became its own story inside the fandom, drawing a lot of backlash from people who were not sure how to read it. So, where exactly is Glitch? Because there is a real difference between a creator reacting in a personal moment and a studio making a conscious choice about what to communicate publicly, and what Glitch chose to communicate after the leak amounts to almost nothing. No official statement addressing what happened, no clips to redirect attention, no spoiler warning campaign of any kind, and that silence in a context where this studio is usually one of the loudest voices on the internet is something that deserves a real look. And the thing is, the silence did not land the same way for everyone inside the fandom. For a big portion of the community, especially the people who had been following Digital Circus since the pilot dropped in 2023, the absence of communication from Glitch felt genuinely disorienting, because this is a fan base that was built on the opposite of silence. It was built on constant interaction, on Gooseworks engaging with fan theories, on the studio treating every episode drop like a shared event between the creators and the audience. So when that energy disappeared almost overnight, a lot of fans did not read it as strategy or exhaustion. They read it as abandonment, and that feeling spread through Discord servers and comment sections faster than any official statement could have. At the same time, another part of the community reacted in the exact opposite direction, actively defending the silence and treating any criticism of Glitch as an attack on the people who made the show. The most logical explanation, and honestly the one I find hardest to argue with, is that Glitch simply cannot release anything promotional right now without the risk of accidentally validating the leak. Think about what happens if they post a new clip or even a short teaser. Every single frame gets compared immediately against what people already saw from the hacker's upload, and if anything matches, then the studio has just confirmed the leak is real without ever saying so directly. So the safest move from a damage control perspective is to release absolutely nothing that can be used as evidence, which means the promotional machine that has been running non-stop for 3 years just stops, and the silence is not really absence at all, but a very deliberate form of control. But then, on May 28th, Glitch posted something, and the way it was written is interesting enough that it is worth reading carefully. The full tweet said, "We know it's been a lot online recently, but we're still so excited to show all of you this finale the way it was intended. Digital Circus has been an incredible 3-year journey, and the theatrical release is a celebration and a chance for everyone to watch, laugh, cry, and experience the ending together. To our artists and staff who made the finale possible, you all created something truly beautiful, and we're all so incredibly proud of you. Digital Circus, the last act, comes to theaters in 1 week." And almost immediately, fans started paying very close attention to the specific wording of that post. One user replied with something that spread pretty quickly through the community, and honestly, it is hard to disagree with the logic behind it. Not to alarm anyone who still wants to believe that the leaks are fake, but them saying the way it was intended pretty much outright confirms that they were real. There is no mention of the leak anywhere in that tweet from Glitch. No anger, no warning, no acknowledgement of anything that went wrong. And yet, the two phrases that stand out the most are the way it was intended and experience the ending together. Those ideas, the intention behind the release, and the collective experience of watching it with other people feel like the real message underneath what looks on the surface like a standard hype post. They are not saying ignore the leak. They are saying there is still something the leak could not give you. And that thing is the theater, the shared experience of a room full of people laughing and crying at the same ending at the same time. And just recently, Glitch posted again with a simple countdown, 5 days left until Digital Circus. The last act comes to theaters, alongside an image of Ribbit facing away from the camera. Without any extra context or mention of everything that had been happening online, simply a quiet reminder that the release is still coming. It is a small post, but after days of near total silence, it stands out, and the choice of showing a character from the back feels almost fitting for a studio that has spent the last week saying just enough without really saying anything at all. You could read that tweet as pure corporate damage control, and maybe part of it is, but there is a more human interpretation that I personally find more interesting. Maybe what happened is that Glitch understood at some point after the leak that winning the internet conversation was no longer possible, that the spoilers were already out and nothing they said publicly was going to change that. So, instead of trying to fight something they had already lost, they redirected the entire message toward the one thing the leak genuinely could not replace. And in doing that, the tweet ends up being less about defending the release and more about quietly protecting whatever meaning the finale still has for the people who choose to see it fresh. And then there is a third possibility that is harder to write about, but probably just as real as the other two. Digital Circus was 3 years of work for a team that watched this show go from a pilot to one of the biggest animated phenomena on the internet, with all the pressure and scrutiny that comes with that kind of scale. The theatrical release was already controversial before the leak even happened, with fans upset about the Netflix deal and the YouTube delay and the situation in South Korea. And then on top of everything else, the finale gets taken before Glitch could share it the way they planned. I think it is worth considering seriously that the people inside that studio might simply be too exhausted right now for a public statement to feel like anything other than inadequate, and that the part of the tweet that thanks the artists and staff is not really a PR move but something much closer to a team, quietly acknowledging each other after something painful. What makes this whole situation genuinely strange is not that Glitch stayed quiet, because studios have done that before, but the contrast with 3 years of being one of the loudest and most present animated studios on the internet, and then near total silence at the exact moment when the noise should have been at its peak. So, what do you think? Do you believe Glitch made the right call by going quiet? Or do you feel like the community deserved more communication after everything that happened with the leak?